We are at Star Wars Celebration Live, powered by Verizon on StarWars.com. I am here with Brandon Alinger, who has worked with J.W. Rinsler on a Star Wars novel, but also the author of your own. Can you tell me a bit about Star Wars costumes?
Yeah, this is Star Wars Costumes, the original trilogy. This is a book that I was fortunate enough to write with Lucasfilm last year. It came out last October. I had worked with J.W. Rinsler on the making of Return of the Jedi. I acted as a research assistant for him on that project, and he knew that I was very interested in the costumes, and then I had done some research in the past on my own. I had relationships with people like John Mallow, so he called me in to do this book, and it was a lot of fun.
So you were deep in the Lucasfilm archives, putting everything together for Jedi?
Yeah.
How did you end up?
Well, not for Jedi. On Jedi, I was working outside Lucasfilm. I was helping Jonathan find material that wasn't at Lucasfilm.
Okay.
The costume book got me into the archives for the first time, which is a pretty great day.
I see. So how did you get that first original connection with Jonathan to work on the making of Return of the Jedi?
I think I maybe met him at a convention, not unlike this one.
So you were just a hardcore Star Wars fan? And
yeah. I just, you know, I was someone who had done a lot of research on these films on my own in the past, and I said to him, look, I've met people if you're trying to find anyone, and what he really needed was help at that point. This was on the Empire book, putting names to faces. So they had photos of some of the British technicians and stuff, and they were trying to identify who was who. That was how I met Jonathan. I helped him a little bit with that, and it went from there, and it led to this. So
what an honor. I mean, they obviously trusted you enough to bring you into the archives.
Yes, yeah.
So did you get in there and get your hands on all of the costumes?
Eventually, very carefully, with gloves.
So what's that like?
Kind of amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And it's all the original stuff. So you're touching that wardrobe from the 70s, the 80s.
Yeah.
How's it stored? Like, what's that? What does that look like? Take me through it.
Well, it's a proper archive. So, I mean, all of the costumes are in collapsible rolling shelf units. So, you know, they've got these big crank wheels on the side, and you crank a handle, and they slide in and out, and then you go down these rows, and it's like, here's the Luke Skywalker section. Here's all of Mark Hamill's costumes, and it's wonderful.
So, what are you looking for specifically?
Oh, I guess at that point when we first started looking at them, we're really just trying to select which ones are going to be featured in the book.
Yep.
You know, we're trying to identify the materials. With Star Wars costumes, they're a little bit different. They're not always traditional fabrics. You have things like vacuum plastic, fiberglass. You know, you have C-3PO costumes where it's not a traditional soft garment costume. It's it's all hard parts. So, you know, there's a lot of interesting elements to costuming in a Star Wars film.
So, does this book tell you about all of the materials, all of the stitching?
It does, It's really, you know, every possible detail you could think of on these costumes. It's how they came to be, what the concept was for the characters, what the concept was for their outfits, how it was developed, who the key people were in developing it, how it was manufactured, who made it, where it was made, how many versions were made, whether it was a hero costume or a stunt costume, all those kinds of things.
So that is the perfect book for like the obsessive cosplayer who wants the most screen accurate outfit available?
I like to think so. Yeah, I mean, it's not really a how-to manual, so it's not telling you how to make costumes.
Right.
But if you want to know how the originals were done for the film, this book will tell you that.
Okay, and I assume that discerning readers could then go figure out their own how-tos because of the amount of just pure information
and the
that's
photographs.
available.
You know, we did a 3-week photo shoot where they dressed over 90 costumes onto mannequins and took all new high-resolution photos of them, and that's the real highlight of the book. I mean, when you flip through, you'll see there's some wonderful images that have never been seen in the past.
Awesome, awesome. Now maybe, this book's available now.
It's available now.
Right. Now maybe you can't answer this. If you're unsure whether you can answer it or not, don't answer it.
Okay.
Is maybe there a possibility of you doing one for the prequel trilogy?
They actually did a book on the prequel trilogy before this one. There was one that came out in about 2005 called Dressing a Galaxy.
Oh, I've read that one, yeah.
And it was actually done by Trisha Bigger, the costume designer on the prequel films.
Okay, and she was there. So.
Yeah, so really this was the missing piece. You know,
I see.
The original trilogy was the missing piece, and that was why we got to do this one.
Right, this involves a lot more historical research versus like having the information on hand when making episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, I mean, it was going to meet people like John Mallow, you know, the costume designer of the first 2 films, who lives in London, and looking at his research materials from the time, looking at his journals and diaries that he still has, all his notes from his meetings with George Lucas. You know, I was very fortunate to get access to those kinds of materials, and they helped make the book what it is.
That's awesome. I'm going to pick up a copy.
Please do.
And get you to autograph it.
I'd be happy to.
Well, thank you so much. much. I'd shake your hand, but we'll do a weird, awkward fist bump.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. That's really, really awesome. I highly recommend that to anyone that wants the history or the most detailed cosplay. I'm like that. I'm very obsessive.
Write reviews on Amazon. That's what we need.
Yeah.
Amazon reviews. Positive reviews only, please.
On Amazon. Thank you so much. And we are going to continue our coverage of Star Wars Celebration Live, powered by Verizon on StarWars.com.